Chapter 1. Paternal Roots. The first half of my lineage began in a little town in Russia named Berdychev. Berdychev is a town in the historic region of Volhynia Province, now in Zhytomyr Oblast, Ukrainian SSR. There is no evidence that a Jewish community existed in Berdychev before 1721. In 1732, the owner of the town granted a charter to the Jewish Guild of Tailors, freeing them from interference by the communal authorities, Kahal. The Jewish population gradually increased. According to the census of 1765, the Jews in Berdychev numbered 1,220. This grew to 1,951 in 1789. Berdychev had become an important center of Volhynian Hasidism in the last quarter of the 18th century. As the town grew, a number of noted scholars served as rabbis of Berdychev, including Lieber, the Great, Joseph, the Sharif, and from the end of the 18th century until his death in 1809, Levi Isaac of Berdychev. In 1797, Prince Radziwill granted 7 Jewish cloth merchants the monopoly of the cloth trade in Berdychev. In the first half of the 19th century, the town's commerce was concentrated in Jewish hands. There were over 23,000 Jews living in Berdychev in 1847 and 46,600 in 1861. It was then the second largest Jewish community in Russia. Shortly thereafter, the numbers began to decline, and in 1897, Berdychev had 41,617 Jewish residents, 80% of the population. At the end of the 19th century, about half of the Jewish wage earners were employed in the manual trades, mostly in tailoring, shoemaking, carpentry, and the like. My dad was born in Berdychev in 1899. My grandmother, Nana Weiner Barenberg, on my dad's side, left Berdychev in Russia with her 3-year-old son Benjamin and her other children in 1903 to come to the United States. It was a good thing they left Berdychev when they did. The Jews in Berdychev became victims of a pogrom perpetuated by the Ukrainian army. Under the Soviet government, most of the synagogues were closed. All Jewish cultural activities there were suspended before World War II. The Nazis established an extermination unit in Berdychev early in 1941. Immediately afterward, wholesale massacres began, and a ghetto was set up in the city. It was liquidated on October 5, 1941, after all the inhabitants were murdered. In 1970, there were an estimated 15,000 Jews in Berdychev, with a synagogue, cantor, and a ritual poultry slaughterer. The cemetery was reported to be neglected, but the Jews who had returned to Berdychev erected a fence around the grave of Levi Isaac of Berdychev. I never knew my grandmother's husband, my grandfather, as he died prior to my birth. The pogroms and rampant anti-Semitism transformed the community into one of fear and lost opportunities. The solution sought by many Jews who lived there was to migrate to that land of promise and opportunity, the United States of America. The Weiners settled in the Boston, Massachusetts area. My father, Benjamin, who was born in 1899 in Berdychev, attended schools in Lynn and worked from the age of 8. His ambition was to be a lawyer, and he attended Northeastern University at night and did earn a law degree. But fate and the necessity to earn a living and help support his mother and 6 sisters, Ree, Edie, Minnie, Fan, Gertrude, and Jeanette, precluded his achieving his dream. Instead, he apprenticed and worked in shoe factories operated by his cousins, the Brightmans and Hershensons in the Lynn, Peabody, and Chelsea environs. Somewhere along the line, he became a shoe salesman and traveled extensively. On one of his trips to New York City, he met the woman of his dreams, Beatrice Pollenbaum. Theirs was a long-distance romance as my father traveled extensively. Beatrice, my mother-to-be, was kidded by her brothers about falling in love with that Boston beanpole, as they affectionately referred to my father. But love conquered all, and they were married circa 1928. While this is my biography, I feel it is important to point out some of the characteristics and traits of my father which I've tried to emulate. He was a highly ethical and moral person. He worked hard at instilling in both my older brother Mickey and me the importance of honesty and integrity. Nana Weiner kept a kosher home, and my dad was quite religious. He lay to fill in every day and believed deeply in a supreme being. This faith sustained him later in life when he suffered financial reversals that would have done him a lesser man. He lost his shoe manufacturing business and went through a difficult bankruptcy in 1959 at age 63. By the age of 66, he got back on his feet, and by the age of 70 was the president of a shoe company in Somersworth, New Hampshire. Dad died after a relatively short bout with cancer at the age of 80 in 1979.